There's quite a few things to just make short video notes of at the moment, which are just to remind myself of things to talk about that I need to get recorded, basically, just to remember insights. So just watch this Matt Kennard video. I thought I should watch it because he's just said that Winstanley guy, the Jewish reporter Winstanley, has just been arrested by the police the other day, apparently, and they took all his no, they didn't arrest him, or they took all his devices or something. It's quite interesting because I actually put a complaint in against Keir Starmer officially, a legitimate complaint in. I also actually complained against one of the Labour MPs, Anton Lambeth Palace, about some of the policies that Labour have put up about, assisted suicide and so forth. And also to do with the Jewish religion, anti-Semitism. And I actually was thinking of Winstanley. It was funny that I was thinking of Winstanley because I knew that Winstanley was Jewish and a reporter, and he's kind of like, he's, even though Jeremy Corbyn was accused of anti-Semitism, Winstanley is ironically Jew, but he's one of these Labour Party supporters who supports Jeremy Corbyn, like Matt Kennard and Double Down News. They've kind of got their own little circle of reporters, London sort of scene, clique, I don't know what you want to call it. It's the Double Down News kind of circles. And what's that other guy called? There's another guy down here as well, that popped up. Owen. Oh yeah, that Owen guy. Owen. He's actually covering the American election at the moment. I just saw his name on one of the videos. Owen. Anyway, you'll know who he is. He's called Owen. He's another reporter. There's that Owen guy, Winstanley, Matt Kennard, Double Down News, Jeremy Corbyn, those kind of circles. A lot of these circles kind of overlap each other and extend to other circles, and there's a lot of different scenes within London, but there's the Novara Media as well. I don't know if Novara Media are kind of like sort of in with that group. I ain't actually watched Novara Media for ages, and I've not intentionally not watched it. It's just not been. I just forgot about it. I had a lot of my channel that got removed. You see how my channel got removed, but it was covertly. Well, my channel was removed because I was lured. I was lured into doing something which I wouldn't normally have done, and what I even did wasn't even wrong anyway, and YouTube had just been awkward, and YouTube were actually breaking the law, but it's I was actually provoked into making a mistake. That's how my channel got removed, and there's something sketchy about it because I didn't have any strikes on my channel, and the whole thing is sketchy. So I've actually had my main channel removed with all my evidence and my decent videos on as well, which I just started making some really cool videos. Some, we're all being somewhat messed around with. So yeah, I think Labour are actually being investigated now. Officially, I've actually seen a proper news report saying that Labour are going to be investigated. I don't know if they're going to be investigating them over the right things or not, but they are going to be investigated. I've definitely reported some quite serious things into the Labour Party. And then there's all the Sadiq Khan stuff with the ULEZ besides that as well. But what I actually wanted to talk about, Matt Kennard's been talking about sort of like the Middle East and what's going on with politics in the Middle East, and you see George Galloway is a person who's really updated and knowledgeable about what's happening in the whole Middle East thing. Don't really get Matt Kennard mentioning George Galloway very often. I think he has been on his show though. Now the thing is, I'm kind of like, currently I'm just kind of like updating myself with a snapshot of what has been actually happening in this country, what even has been going on, where are we and what's happening, basically, like kind of like a big wake-up call. Okay, what's happening, who are we, and where are we on this planet, right? Going by, not everything in history that's written down is the truth. Some of it's lies, but whatever is presented to us, can we make some sense out of it, and can we make an accurate evaluation politically? And there's definitely some, insights to be had when you put it all together into a timeline, into a kind of like story, historical timeline of what's happening. And also the religion, what's happening with religion, there's a lot of things to be said about that, but also the law now, and also this whole kind of thing with the whole different countries, and this whole kind of issue with, what even is going on with this whole racism issue around the whole planet. Is there some forced migration and immigration, or is it all natural? And clearly there are different types of humans from all around the planet. What's the current situation with all that? Well, I actually think that it's all relevant together. Like the religion, the thread with the religion, right? What's been the timeline of religion, and particularly this Christianity thing. What even is it? Make an evaluation of it, and not a Dawkins evaluation of it, for God's sake, right? Actually, what is it and what's going on? And what about the law in this country and around the world? I think that there's definitely something happening in this Middle East. They've been fighting for ages. They're always fighting, right? And then we've got this Christianity issue that also originates from that area, which is the religion that has ended up being the religion here in England and in America and Australia and Canada and Europe, Rome, Italy. We've got this religion which is the primary main religion for European originated people who have spread out around the world, at least from 2,000 years ago. Yeah, the country that it's meant to originate from, right, is constantly at perpetual war in and around and with itself. And this is the thing. That country, right, there's something odd. And I'm like, Firstly, there are two factors. Firstly, the people, and secondly, the place. The people and the place. Well, the place in the Middle East, right, on the map, they've got this area called this Fertile Crescent, right? It's meant to be the area where all this ancient religion is meant to come from and stem from, this Fertile Crescent, right? And then you've got kind of like Egypt as well, all around the Nile was kind of a little bit fertile around there, and you've got the whole ancient Egyptian thing as well, which is kind of separate from what's going on to the east, and then you've got Rome and Greece and so forth. Now, I think this is really important. After looking at what's happened to our country and what they did in our country and what's happened in our country all through the whole timeline, from BC to the Roman invasion and, Norman conquest, the whole thing in a timeline, right? And now I want to... So we had the Crusades, didn't we, right? When they had a lot of people, they took over, sent them over to the east to the Crusades, right? To fight. Supposedly, fight for the religion. And this is like in the medieval period. But the religion has only really been properly going on since, Constantine, 400 AD-ish, right? 300 or 400 AD. And want to. A lot of people were sent over there and didn't come back, right? And then, you know, there's a war, even, you know, way back. Now, in this country, in sort of like, you know, I think it was around 1600s onwards, and definitely in the 1700s, they did this like, they patented this land irrigation, but it was such a big deal that they actually got a patent on it. You know what happens when you get a patent? That you've got the sole rights to do it, so that it's on like the design and idea and process is like you've got the exclusive kind of like, you know, rights to do and use it, right? So they did all this land irrigation here in like the what they call the fens, and in, you know, like Norfolk, Suffolk sort of area. They did it a lot of other places as well. Took a lot of water from the land, and they actually learned how to do it. I'm not saying that they weren't doing it in other countries. I'm not saying that, you know, the Aztecs or whoever around the whole planet were or weren't doing it. But what I will say is, in this country, they got a patent for it, right? And they developed the skills in doing it and the knowledge of doing it. And what they did is they drained a lot of the land, which was like the Marches land, which was a lot waterlogged. And in previous times, that's why the Celts were not really inhabiting the east of England that much, because it was all flat and also got a lot of waterlogged, whereas the Pennines and Wales and Scotland and the Lake District and so forth were a lot more hilly, right? But this is a big thing. Now, the diet in England, they used to eat a lot of fish, but you didn't used to have to live like at the seaside and be a fisherman, you know, and go getting crabs or whatever. There were a lot of these eels around, and that was a quite an actual popular dietary food, right? Eels. And you know, when you eat eels, you get a lot of oils. Like salmon is good for you because it's got a lot of natural oils and protein and so forth. Now, these eels will have been pretty good, really, like salmon, you know, although like a poor man's salmon. Now, there's an interesting thing about those eels, because they come from the Atlantic Ocean, right out in the ocean, and they go on currents. They go on ocean currents, and then they end up around the coast of Europe, and then they mature, and then they end up swimming up the estuaries, and they live actually in the fens and up the river systems, and in this area where you have water inland and the marches and so forth, and they burrow into the mud and so forth, and then they have a life cycle and they live there, and then they actually end up returning to the they go. It's like birds, you know. Birds can find north and then migrate, and birds have got this magnetic sense of the planet where they follow it and migrate. This is like these eels, right? And they've got this cycle, and it's quite a long distance to travel, but they do this life cycle, and they'll actually end up they come from out in the ocean, but they live a lot of their lives inland here in Europe, and then they go back again. And all that's been disrupted now, mainly because they actually drained a lot of European countries, including ours. And remember Amsterdam, you know? I mean, the name's in the word, Amsterdam. You know, they were losing they lost a lot of land in Amsterdam to water. They had to drain a lot of water off because they were losing land and water, and they had to come over here because they were short of land, right? There's all that. Now, Spain, France, England, we had a lot of these eels, but they wanted to grow corn. They wanted to grow like crops, so they drained all the thing off so they could build more towns and towns and villages in Norfolk and Suffolk and grow crops, which is why when you drive out there, it's just field, you know, like when you go out Bury St Edmunds and all around there, it's just flat, field, right? Now, the thing is, right, they got this land irrigation, right, and they just got very, very skilled and adept at it, and this is like 1700s, right? Now, the thing is, right, now I know that there's been global climate change. We all know that there's climate change, right? And the planet has shifted, and the climate zones has shifted, obviously, because the Sahara. Um, you know, Algeria used to be fields. Algeria used to be green. Algeria used to have like meadows and pastures and all that cave and rock art. It used to be habitable. It wasn't all like rocky and barren. So we know that. We know, and there was lakes there. So it's pushed humans out of North Africa. So this is when you've got this kind of line up the planet, and you've got a little bit of growth around Egypt because the water's there, but then you've got because of the Nile, but then you've got this kind of line where there's it's like really hot, like in America they've got like Death Valley or whatever as well. But so the Middle East, they had this thing called the Fertile Crescent, right? And it was meant to be plants, because obviously, if it was completely dry and desolate, no one would be living there. It would be like, what's happening in North Africa. You get pushed out of there just by the weather. The weather pushes you out of there, not necessarily people. I know people do live all over Africa, and they've got like Dakar and caravan trains and camels and a whole culture of it, but it's not exactly lush, is it, until you get down to the Congo or whatever. But the thing is, right, this Fertile Crescent is meant to be where Jesus story happened, and the whole Bethlehem, the whole thing, the whole Jesus thing, right? It was in this Fertile Crescent. But the thing is that when you look at Google Earth, well, there isn't anything fertile there, right? When you look at it and zoom in on Google Earth, it's just like Death Valley, it's just like, what the fuck? It's just like, it's not fertile, is it? And then when you read Google, it says, well, yes, the Fertile Crescent, yes, it's still fertile. It's fertile soil or fertile lands. But I'm like, look, shut up. If you get Google Earth, right, that is not fertile. It's just a Fertile Crescent. Like, yeah, right. It's not a Fertile Crescent. And it turns out that, according to information which has been given to us by the grace of God on the internet, there was a lot of land irrigation and digging of channels in this Fertile Crescent in the 1950s. Why would they do that to themselves? Why would they dig themselves loads of canals and land drainage and literally write off their fertility, right? Who would plan and organise and scheme that, The mind boggles. Now, this is where we get into who would build a house like this, who would do that? Well, this is the thing, why did we drain our fens off and lose all the eels and so forth just for growing, barley and making bread, the windmills everywhere. This is the thing. But they learned how to do it and they did it. That's interesting. Now, it seems that knowledge and technology was taken over to the east and used in the 1950s. Now, where did we get the patent from in technology? Did we get it from there? Are we bouncing it back and forth like tennis? Is it like, because apparently our windmills, the ingenious of the windmills actually came from over there, but they definitely weren't, I don't necessarily think that they needed to, it's almost kind of like a self-destruction thing. I'm starting to think that someone actually, I know it's a massive scale project, but come on, draining those fens in England, draining everywhere in England was a massive project. Let's not fool anyone. It's almost kind of like, I'm starting to think now that all these wars in the East, we've got the Crusades, someone's sending people over to do something over there. Call it Crusades, call it what you want, but we're being called over, or they're sending people over, and there's a lot of people dying. We don't know if they're coming back. It's it's looking to me on the map like, I think that they strategically led them to self-harm their own land by doing that, knowing that it's going to ruin the fertility of the place, which is not really good at the moment over there. And now there's all these other wars and stuff. It's they got the knowledge to do it, and it's all strategic, almost kind of like up here in the moors we carry these mysterious peat fires, and the moors keep burning every so often and so forth, all the grouses and that, and they've got the cock crowing stone up on the moors, which I find quite intimidating. Whoever put that there, it's I'm starting to wonder about this whole global domination strategy. But what I'm saying is, I think, in my opinion, the Europeans or the West actually are responsible for somehow conning or misleading the people of that fertile crescent to basically make it unfertile, but without them realising what they were doing, like, so they weren't switched on to it, so, and that, it's contributing towards it. I still think that they're meddling all the wars at the moment. So I wanted to note that Crescent thing. There's quite a lot of other things to say, but that's important. So I just wanted to say that. I've got lots of other things to talk about, particularly around the religious origins. This whole burning bush and the symbols of the Jews before anything to do with Jesus even came along. All those ancient old stories, but also the Romans, and particularly the science of the Romans, because I think the thing with Dawkins and the thing with people, when we use these words like a religion or a science and so forth, they're kind of confusing to actually what you're actually talking about and what it actually is. What is a religion, right? And then how, it's almost kind of like just the ritual of practicing something to remember something and not forget it, but also to make sure that you do certain things. And there's quite a lot of important insights about the current church. It is very different to what it started off like, or started off as. And the whole connection between just law and crime, because you see, the Romans had courts and they had their own legal system and law and crime and punishment, but that wasn't religion, that's law. Then they've got scientists, and the Greeks had scientists. You see, the Romans had their own religions. They had like their own gods, like Zeus and so forth, and temples, and they had like these big temples which had these big pillars and the triangle shapes on the top, and then they had all those places where they could get away from the sun to keep cool, because of the weather there was quite hot and warm. But you see, the architects, the science of the architects, the shape and design of the temples is very scientific, and of the sciences of building and planning and measuring, right? But yet you worship these religions in there, but the religions were actually based on the different planets, which is actually science, astronomy. And they attributed different forces and studies of certain different things to these different gods. But I think that the language and words which they're using to describe the Roman, as to say, religion, is actually very misconstrued with sciences, right? And mathematicians. And I think that you see They're actually, at the moment, we've got this thing called a university. It's called university. You go there to learn and study, and they've got every subject you can think of. And it's actually, it originates from monasteries and actually from the church. The sciences and the study of the science is the church, right? And it is a study of the church, but it, originally it's temples and squares and architecture and measuring and shapes, right? It's not anything to do with this cross or Jesus or crime, law and order, before Christ, in this, Roman, Greek period, Zeus, and even with the Celts, that's not even on the radar. You've actually got astronomy, planets, study, sciences. You've got these temples, triangles, shapes, even Stonehenge. You've got like the sun, the motions of the planets, moon movement, sunrise, sunset. It's actually sciences as you think of university. And they had all the different gods attributed to different planets, but they're all different motions, different movements, and how you understand the different human elements. Like you've got anger, hate, love, all these different human qualities and emotions and so forth, right? Now, you haven't got anything to do with crime, the court, right? It's actually, if you think of ancient Rome, most people think of, they had cities, it was advanced. Rome was, very advanced civilization. You go to court, you have scientists, mathematicians, but they had these strange gods, different gods and study. But the thing is, when you go to the religious temples, it's actually the sciences, right? Because it's the mathematicians who build it. It's the mathematicians who plan out the temples, and it's the mathematicians who study the motions of those planets and know what they're all called, which actually put them into the different religious sciences of like Mars and Venus and Pluto, and then all these different sciences, right? But there's no guy in a cross there. There's no guy nailed to a cross. There's no judge there, right? You go to the court for crime, right? If you go to the court and it's Roman law and they had their own lawyers and their own advanced legal system and so forth, but if you break the law, if it's a serious crime, you end up on a cross, and you might end up outside the city on a cross, but it's not in the temple of Zeus, it's not in the temple of Aphrodite on the wall. Actually, what's in the temple, these temples, are triangles, pillars, statues, the arts, sciences, right? Now, the thing with, fast forward to here, with the current religion we've got since Constantine, really, and the adoption as the official religion, is you go into the church, the place of the study of the religion and praying, creation and God. You've actually got a guy who's just committed a crime, and his sentence, that's court. You're going into the court where someone's been naughty, right? So you've got someone who's been naughty in the court, where you normally have judges, and everyone's there, but praying to do with creation and life and so forth. So what it actually is like, here is justice, judicial justice, and kind of life and creation. You got the creation and life and supposedly, prayers, but you've got justice. So that's a big thing, because you've got everything to do with supposedly, how did humans get here, on this planet, and what even is this planet, and just like, the creation, all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small. But then you've got a court. So it's the court merged with the study of what are we doing on this planet and what is life. But it's a major, massive part of it. Justice, which is if you commit a crime and if you're punished. But the main thing of it is forgiveness. Now that's a major combinational difference. Because you've got the creation of the planet and all things mixed with the court, right? Whereas if you look at ancient Greece, it's more, in those temples, you've got science and the creation. Science, all the sciences and the creation. You don't have the court in there because the crosses were outside the city, where people had been, been to the court, but the court wasn't in the temples. So that's a major thing. Now, you have got the sciences, you have got the study of science and maths and all the things in this country, but it's called the university, but it was the church, right? So they're kind of like all tied together. Now, that is it's quite important, I think, because it's this whole justice system. Now, the thing is, the modern court, when you actually do go to a court, it originates from these church courts. They had church courts in Scotland anyway, which is, you got peers, judgment of the peers, but then you've got someone who's meant to be, elected as a justice, but you're meant to have a jury in a fair trial, so you know what's happened and gone on. And then they're meant to decide, whether what the truth is, what actually happened. But there's lots of different versions. You've got trial by, dunking in water and all kinds of, hanging, and they're all trial by combat and all different kinds of judicial systems. Like they went to have the Colosseum and so forth, remember, as well. You could have trial by combat or whatever, various different things. But it's what I actually think is that whatever's happened, there's definitely this whole Middle East thing, right? If we go all the way back to actually Jesus's time, it's meant to be the Jewish people, from the Middle East, right? But you've also got the Persian people as well. The thing is that there was already this. Why were the Romans using that? They had stoning, right? But why were the Romans using that cross thing for the crucifixion? Just for criminal? Because if you go back in time, right, before Jesus, you don't have all this weird dogmatic magical things happening like walking on water or whatever, right? But you've got courts and crime, and you've got like these gods like Zeus, Aphrodite, all these different gods. But the cross thing isn't actually religion. This is not a religion. This is not a religious thing. This is actually going for the crime and punishment thing, right? But why were they doing it then? Now, I think there's definitely some racial thing going on between the Romans and Greeks and these Persian people with this cross thing. Is it got to do with opium and poppies and, the symbol on there? Is there something going on with that whole thing or not? And further from that, the crusades that we've got when we're sending people over there to fight, were they killing loads of people or trying to kill loads of people? Was it really religious battle or some kind of culling or genocidal thing then? And then as it continued by this irrigation, trying to kill the land off, by making the Fertile Crescent not fertile anymore if they got the knowledge and skills of it, like from, what they did with the Fens over here, right? That's what I'm thinking now, what I've kind of realised. So, is it kind of like something that's been going on for a long time? And that's just what I wanted to mention, because I know that there have also been, Irish people, weren't treated that well and various things. But, and I'm starting to wonder, what have they been doing over here when they tried to stop our religion over here? Like when the Romans came over here, like with our temples here, and Stonehenge. Stonehenge is not complete, got pulled down, and the various burials been dug up, and discouraging people from certain religious or sacramental practices that may or may not have been belonging to the people before, and going to get those said sacraments from certain places where they may or may not grow on the moors, which end up sometimes getting mysterious fires and getting burned, and people putting cock crowing stones there to put people off going there, various things. So, could there be almost a attack on multiple sacraments or multiple origins of different peoples going on kind of at once, of ours here at our homeland here, but also of theirs over in their country as well, but who would do that? Us against them, or them against us, or maybe the people who are a bit of a mix of both and might resent both sides. I don't know. But this is when you get into subjects like pedigree, kings, queens, rulers, and other subjects start to have a relevance. And then, Tony Blair's Fabian Society, who, lurk in the shadows, and what are they up to in the nooks and crannies, what are they plotting and scheming on the world, with their elitist movements, which plan to take over. This is the thing. Oh, one more thing. Servants and privileges. I need to mention this. So, after reading a lot about learning about privileges and servants being covered with privileges, I've actually worked something out now. So, they like having servants. These elites, these barons and lords and kings, they like having servants. And if you're their servants and if you're loyal servants, you get under their protection. And anyone who even messes with their servants gets in trouble as well. Now, the royals kind of got rid of a lot of the privileges officially, right? But what I've come to learn now is I think that the government, the police, when you figure the police into it from the 1800s onwards, and they wouldn't raise the minimum wage, they got the machines in the factories, a lot of people lost their skills, and the Luddites kicked off, and then Robert Peel he drops the police on everyone, but not just a sheriff, like a proper organised full-on police force, when the crime that they've created by not giving people better and more money and taking their skills away from them and less jobs for them because they made machines to do all the jobs. What's actually happening is that we had privileges so we could enforce the law when we need to. Now the thing is, though, the elitists used their own servants to assist and protect them with privileges. Now, what I actually think the police have become kind of like the servants who are privileged. The police are like the privileged servants, but they've got an entire force of them now. Many be upholding the law for us, but we were meant to be able to use the law, right, to protect ourselves and get fair justice. But now, the law is in the hands of the police, not us. But the police are the servants of the elite. I think the police now are kind of privileged, and they're sort of protected in it. Well, they protect themselves because they're armed and funded to, and they are organised, and we don't really stand a chance against them when it comes to if they're breaking the law or if they're doing something wrong or if they're not investigating certain crimes we want them to investigate. Tough, right? We're fucked. So the police are extremely privileged, like the servants of the peers used to be, because they're fully funded, armed, and trained and capable. And then you've got the government departments like the DVLA, Department of Transport, who are like, building these roads and making these things and doing the projects, and it's all funded. And, then they're toying with us like a cat toying with a mouse, like, dropping the speed limit down to 30 mile an hour on the motorway with the sweet FA there. Fuck all there. 6-lane wide motorway with sweet FA, like a fucking scrub brush blowing across it. But they're flashing these cameras like twisting your nipple till you're screaming, right? And then they're putting signs up saying, "Oh, speed limit in place for air quality." Yeah, right, oh, it's not for safety now, is it? Mr. Policeman in Shropshire at the side of the road with his illegal fucking speed sign set up and his little gun getting us with his gun. Oh, it's for your safety, it's for your safety. I'm not making any money out of it. It's all going back through, it's all coming back through fun in a circle like that. Fuck off. It's all about safety. No, it's not about safety, is it? Oh, air quality. Be safe on the motorway, like, fuck off. Bullshit, right? The DVLA are protected like the servants with privilege, but not with this official privilege that we know about, just because the sweet fuck all we can do. We've got no money to prosecuting them in the courts. We've got no money to challenge them when you write to the DVLA. Oh, well, his driving license say that, you can't prosecute this vehicle. It's not a van, it's a car, right? Bullshit, right? What does it say in the driving license? It's a car, right? So why does David Cameron change all the law to pretend to blend it all in? Like, oh no, it was never a car. Fuck off, Cameron, you lying bastard. Why are you prosecuting us all? It's not a fucking car, or whatever. And that's what they did with the privileges of the peers, actually, as well. They like changing things secretly and slowly and slyly so you don't notice, and they try to pass it off, but actually they're just lying. They did it actually with the colleges. In fact, all the colleges suddenly mysteriously changed to academies, right? Who's done that? Why have they done that? This is the thing. They can just, once you own everything, once they've purchased and bought everything, they can just change everything. This is the thing. Suddenly we're all eating fish and chips and this and that. And the next thing, you slide it in, McDonald's, KFC, you're all eating these things now. Just build them all everywhere. So this is the thing. But definitely, what has happened is that the servants of the peers now effectively is like the unelected permanent DVLA or Revenue and Customs, and they are actually just lying, changing. They're sneaking things. A lot of the laws are made inconsistently, unlawfully, and not coherently. And they're actually doing a lot of things illegally. And there's not really anything it's very hard to get anything done about it. And when they do, it's only the things that they want, like Lord Hanningfield has to go to prison, or expenses scandal, or this or that, or post office workers. It's always, their top pick, their pot pickers, chart pickers pick of what they... Okay, there's, 100 complaints that are legitimate that we've done wrong. All right, then, well, we're going to have to admit to one of these, 100 crimes we've done. So, we'll just have this one, make sure it's the one that'll make an example out of everyone or whatever, rather than say, oh, yeah, we're completely and totally corrupt and fucked. This is the thing. They're all protected because no one who's going to get the money to do it. You haven't got the money. And the thing is, the police aren't going to walk into the DVLA and fucking arrest everyone, are they? They're not going to arrest the Secretary of State for Transport or the Chief Executive of the DVLA, for forgery, for forging the speed limit on vehicles saying that they're, not a car, when it says on the fucking driving license that it's a car, stuff like that. It's they're all protecting themselves because they don't want to be liable, And this is what the thing they've done with the post office workers, all that sketchy stuff that went on, and then they all got prosecuted supposedly, and now that was wrong, we shouldn't have prosecuted them. Now we'll have to undo it all again. This is the thing. They can't just play dumb. They're not that stupid. Some of them have got to know that they are doing things illegally. And if they carry on doing it and don't confess, then they're aiding and abetting a crime, And actually, I don't think they're all working under parliamentary privilege, It's they're not. And the thing is, in the American Constitution, when they set it up, they said that people who are elected into office can't vote. People who are serving in public office aren't really meant to have a political opinion for one party or the other. They just go in and do a job, They're not meant to be. We're the ones who vote and decide what the laws should or shouldn't be, and the staff are the people who execute the job as we have voted for what it should be. They're not the ones who are making up the laws. That means that any ideas for roads or, strategy or design of what the country should be is going to come from us, and they're going to go do it. They're not going to be the ones who are coming up with the ideas and policies and then just doing it to us, and then we have to like it or lump it, The ideas aren't meant to be coming out of the chief executive, out of the staff of the DVLA, out of these big corporate companies, entities, investors, but it ends up all being. But they're the only ones who've got money now, and they're the ones going into the council, putting the money on the table, So it's like, but effectively now, what I've realised is, right, the police are now the privileged servants of the elite, and the DVLA are the privileged servants of the elite, and the HM Revenue and Customs staff are the privileged servants of the elite. And if you look at what's happening to these privileged servants of the elite, well, look at Royal Mail. Royal Mail was the King's personal mail service, and for the courts, if you're in prison and you need to write a letter to the Parliament, say, like Monopoly, get out of jail free card or whatever, I'm sorry, it's Royal Mail, right? That's the only way you get a letter through, because it's the mail service for the government, right? Now the thing is, what happened to Royal Mail? Well, it got sold to a foreign entity, which now owns it as a company, a business. But it's the King's mail for the courts to send letters, right? Like, I'm in prison, can I get out, please, right? It's a government function. Why do the Germans own it now? Why is it BlackRock Vanguard? Why are they making a profit out of it? It's there for me to send a letter from court to Parliament, right, to say, can I please, I'm sorry, can I please go now? This is the thing. What is a foreign entity doing delivering mail between courts in England? What? So why has David Cameron sold it to a foreign entity? Now it owns it, and now it can make up its own policies. Well, could the policy be that we're not delivering any mail for courts? We're not delivering any mail for courts. We don't do that. Could they come up with that policy? Oh no, we can't do that. The government has to have a little agreement with them. This is the thing. If all Royal Mail staff are privileged staff because they're delivering the King's mail, right? They're all privileged servants, but it's now owned by DHL or some foreign company. So how can they be all privileged, the King's privileged royal servants of the mail, if they're owned by foreign company? And why is some foreign company making profit out of, Leicester Magistrates Court sending a letter communication to, you know, um, you know, Chorley Magistrates Court, you know, what's that got to do with some foreign company? Why are they making money out of that? You know, why would the king, why would Charles, right, want to send a messenger to the Archbishop of Lincoln, right? Why would Charles want one of his servants to deliver a letter to the Bishop of Lincoln, right? And some, pumpernickel in Germany, right, be making £20 out of it? Does it make any sense? Why is someone in Germany, right, making £40 out of King Charles's personal privileged servant delivering a letter to the Bishop of fucking Lincoln, right? I don't understand. So why has David Cameron sold it off? And my brain's finding it difficult to get my head around it. Particularly now when all these big corporate entities all seem to have the privilege of being based in another country, so you can't knock on the door with a complaint because it's like overseas. I can't get anywhere near Nick Clegg. I can't email Nick Clegg. I can't telephone Nick Clegg. I can't scale the Fortress Wall. I can't get into Glastonbury Festival. I can't throw a fucking grappling hook over the top of a fucking... it's like the Cliffs of fucking Despair in The Princess Bride. How do you meet Nick Clegg? It's like you climb up the Cliffs of fucking Despair. Where's the fucking princess? The Cliffs of Despair. You get to the top. Oh, it's a Nick Clegg. It's like the fucking man from U.N.C.L.E. with his sword. Aha, you found me. Now we can have a sword fight with my umbrella. Get my umbrella out like fucking, Kingsman. Ah, you found me. I'm in America, in, Mark Zuckerberg's, fortress. How do you speak to Nick Clegg? You write to him. We've got WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Google Mail, Hotmail, Snail Mail. Speak to the hand, because the face ain't fucking listening. You can't even send a parcel to Microsoft now in America. No one can send parcels to Microsoft. They're not reachable by mail. They're off grid. They don't want anyone on the planet sending them letters or mail to Microsoft. It doesn't exist. There's no address. Try typing on the computer. You can't send it there. But yeah, if you want to, be a media company, you've got to have a contactable address. This is it. These people don't want any mail. They want to be off grid. They're off grid. Never mind. We can't go off grid. We will not be off grid. We will all be tracked at every moment, at every time by their watches, mobile smartphones, listening devices, microchips, right? No person shall be like Commando in the forest, chopping wood, off grid, like fucking, like Bill Shatner, right? In the fucking woods chopping logs, right? No one's allowed to be off grid, right? Except, guess who? These fucking companies. We're not off grid. We are monitored in every fucking thing you think or fucking say, smell, touch or see. They know about it. Recorded by devices. But they're the ones off grid. Don't send anything to Microsoft. It has no existing address. You cannot go there. It's in another country, right? You can't send anything there. You can complain to some pumpernickel online, some minion, but he's like, even in fucking California, in Silicon Valley, he's like, proxied to some fucknose, proxied to Nigeria or something, oh, I'm very sorry, that's on level 10, I'm only on level 1, I'll have to put it through to level 16 or whatever. These people, right, are off the fucking grid, right, in cloud cuckoo land. I don't know how They get Zuckerberg into Congress, right? I don't know how. They get Zuckerberg into turn up in Congress. There's castles in the sky, right? And there's fucking bases on the moon. But these people they're off the fucking grid, and we have to be on the blip, on the fucking blippity blip blip blip, but they, no, don't speak to the fucking hand because their face ain't listening, they don't even fucking exist. They're like ghosts, like on Point Break, they're just ghosts. Nick Clegg has ascended into heaven. Nick Clegg he's risen. He's ascended. He's now a glowing being somewhere. Have you even seen him with Zuckerberg talking screen to screen in the White Room? It's almost kind of like some kind of ethereal palace in heaven. The White Room. It's like, I don't think that he's human anymore. He's become a divine. Nick Clegg, the divine, living in a pure palace of energy in the stars, maybe they're gods now, who knows? This is the thing, but they have servants, and their servants are privileged. They're privileged that you can't touch them, see them, hear them, smell them. You can't get there because they're based in another country. You can't, complain and you shake your phone or something, and this is it. They've got their own laws, the laws of the divine heaven, the policy, which is beyond law, the Google staff are the privileged servants of Mark Zuckerberg, the privileged servants. And the only servants that I know that aren't privileged are Jeff Bezos's. Jeff Bezos's, the only servants who aren't privileged. Well, they've got the privilege of being, watched every second in everything they do by the cameras everywhere, but, that's as far as the privileges go with, Bezos's staff. But as for, Zuckerberg's staff and Bill Gates' staff and, all these big platform staff, they're very privileged that they don't have to take a complaint at the counter like Royal Mail. There's always a message on there saying, we will not tolerate any, foul language or bad behaviour or whatever. Basically, yet, mail's not getting delivered, is it? No mail's getting anywhere. I've sent mail and it's just vanished. It's off the radar. We don't even know where that it's gone to, even though it's meant to be fully tracked now. In fact, it's fully tracked. It's not even any better. It just all vanishes. This is the thing. Is the technology even made it any better? So, it's clear that there are privileges going on, and now we don't even, even if it's a official serious matter. Apparently we can't pursue a serious matter. It's like you need a nanny to do it. You need the police. Oh, someone's stolen something, I need to go get a nanny, to change my nappy, Oh, you ring 999 or ring 101, It's you need to go get a nanny to change your nappy if there's something serious. You need to get a police officer, a privileged person who can, actually act with authority and do something, rather than, DIY doing it yourself, because we don't have any power or authorities to do anything, apparently. This is the thing. So, definitely the privileges, the servant privileges have actually been enhanced. And I'm actually thinking now that, are all these MPs who are being, are all these political parties with all these mixed MPs, are they kind of like the privileged servants really now? Are they the privileged servants? When you think about the whole model for Star Trek Next Generation, we've got Picard are the rest of the ship his privileged servants, you know? If he's number one, you know, are the rest of the staff in the Enterprise, are the Enterprise staff the privileged servants, you know? Are the staff of these big corporate BlackRock vanguards the privileged servants? You know, this is the thing. Because they seem like they're the only ones who are getting any law put through the government at the moment. So, you know, I definitely think there's something interesting going on with the whole servant protection, which is not actually what you would normally think of, like, you know, just the footman or the, you know, pumpkin coach driver or whatever, but definitely this kind of like DVLA, Department of Transport, Sadiq Khan and his team legal, that kind of thing. And then all these other MPs who fit into the whole thing, who actually kind of like realise that, I think they're actually just the privileged servants now doing the bidding of some corporate entity, investor thing. So, you know, that's something that I need to note as well. But maybe that conversation kind of went off subject a little bit. But I got a few things recorded that I wanted to remember to raise issues. So I need to go do some more reading and learn some more things now. But I'm not saying any of that stuff is fact or truth. It's just some things that I was pondering may or may not be the truth.